All right, when you picture a vineyard, what comes to mind? I bet you're thinking rolling hills, warm sun, somewhere like Italy or France, right? You're probably not thinking of the cool, windy coast of Denmark. But believe it or not, an incredible story of innovation is unfolding right there. Let's get into it.
I know. Wine from the land of Vikings and Legos. It sounds kind of like a punchline. But here's the thing, it's very real and it's getting seriously good. And how they're actually pulling it off, well, it might just be a peek into the future of wine itself.
So, first, let's just appreciate what a massive challenge this is. I mean, trying to make wine this far north, you're really pushing the absolute limits of what people thought was even possible.
And here it is, side by side. On one hand, you've got the classic recipe for great wine. Lots of warmth, lots of sun, dry weather. And on the other hand, you've got Denmark. Look, it's not just that it's cool. The real killer here is the humidity, all that damp air coming off the sea. For traditional grapevines, that is just a recipe for disaster. And, this whole thing is a super new story. We're not talking about ancient traditions here. It all started with just a handful of stubborn pioneers back in the 70s and 80s. They tried, and for the most part, they failed with the classic grapes. The real game changer came in 2000, when the EU gave them the official nod, and that sparked the tiny but, as we'll see, very determined industry we see today.
Okay, so if the climate is all wrong and the famous grapes don't work, how on earth did they crack the code? Well, they found a secret weapon. Or, more accurately, they adopted one that was being designed for exactly these kinds of tough spots.
See, you can work around the cold to some extent, but that constant dampness, that's the real villain of the story. It's the perfect breeding ground for nasty fungal diseases that can just decimate a whole crop of normal European grapes. That was the problem that needed a totally new solution. And here is that solution. Meet the hero of our story, Peewee grapes. Yeah, the name's a bit of a German mouthful, Pilzwieder Stanzfähig, but what it means is simple, fungus resistant. And that is their superpower. These are these brilliant hybrid grapes, a perfect mix of the tough, disease-fighting ability of wild vines and the delicious, complex flavors of their famous European cousins. And for a place like Denmark, the advantages are just huge. Look at this. Traditional grapes get sick easily and need a ton of chemical sprays. PIWs, they're naturally tough. But here's the kicker. They ripen early. That is absolutely essential when you have a short, cool summer. It basically makes sustainable, smart winemaking possible in the north. But having the right tool for the job is only half the battle. You still have to outsmart the weather. So let's look at how Danish winemakers use some serious cleverness out in the fields. Think of this as the Nordic vineyard survival guide. First up, it's all about location. You have to find those perfect south-facing slopes to catch every possible bit of sunlight. Second, you have to be almost obsessive about pruning the leaves, the canopy, to let the sun hit the grapes, and crucially, to keep air moving through to fight off disease. And finally, you have to be ready for frost, the silent killer that can wipe out delicate buds in the spring. Okay, so they've battled the climate, they've got the perfect grapes, but the big question remains. What does the wine actually taste like? Is it any good? Well, let me introduce you to Solaris, the undisputed star of Danish white wine. Because it's so cool there, the grapes keep this incredible, vibrant acidity, which makes the wines taste so fresh. You get these intense aromas, think tropical fruits and peaches, with this zesty, electric finish. It's basically sunshine in a glass, but, Nordic style. And for the reds, you've got Regent. Now, don't expect a big, heavy Cabernet Sauvignon. That's not what this is. Instead, Regent makes these beautiful, light-bodied red wines that have this surprisingly deep, rich color. They're super approachable, with soft tannins and these pure, clean flavors of cherry and other dark berries. Really lovely stuff. So those two grapes are really the foundation for what Denmark does best. You've got those crisp, aromatic whites, the light, fruity reds, and some really fantastic rosés. But you know what? Their secret weapon might just be sparkling wine. That high natural acidity we talked about, it is the absolute perfect ingredient for making world-class bubbly. So what's the big takeaway here? Is Danish wine just a cool, quirky thing to talk about at a party? No, it's way more than that. This whole story is a window into what's next for wine all over the world.
Yeah, this quote really nails it. This isn't just about a country deciding, hey, let's make wine. It's a masterclass in adaptation, in using science and pure, simple grit to make something amazing in a tough environment.
Think about it. As traditional wine regions all over the world get hotter and face their own new climate challenges, the lessons being learned in places like Denmark, they become unbelievably important. What's happening there is like a real-world experiment, a preview of sustainable farming for the future.
And that brings us to this one last, really fascinating question. For hundreds of years, the heart of the wine world has been in the South. But as our climate continues to change, could we be on the verge of a massive shift? Could the new frontier, the new home for world-class wine, actually be in these cool, resilient, and incredibly innovative vineyards of the North? Definitely something to think about.